It's 2 a.m. A senior engineer gets paged. Production is down. They open the code base, code they wrote, and realize they can't reason through a single function without pasting it into an AI first. GitHub's own research says developers using Copilot finish tasks 55% faster. Nobody is asking what's being traded away to get there. Picture the scene. A senior engineer, 10 years in, paged in the middle of the night. The code base on screen is technically theirs. But most of those functions were generated by Copilot, accepted with a keystroke, shipped without a second read. Now something has broken in production. And to understand the failure, they have to feed their own code back into an AI and ask it what's happening. This isn't a junior developer learning on the job. This is someone with deep experience hitting a wall they didn't see coming. And here's the paradox. The code works. Until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, no human in the room can explain why. That's the moment the productivity story stops being just a productivity story. So how did we get here? Nobody decided this. There was no meeting. The shift happened quietly, through the tools themselves. Copilot and similar assistants changed one small thing, but it's the thing that matters. They moved developers from writing code to accepting code. Writing requires understanding. You have to hold the system in your head. Accepting only requires judgment, a quick scan, a yes or no. And over thousands of small accepts, judgment quietly replaces comprehension. The developer's mental model of the system, how it fits together, why it's built this way, slowly stops updating. The skill being lost here isn't typing speed. It isn't memorizing syntax. It's something more important. Legibility. The ability to read your own work and reason about it. That's the muscle that atrophies, one accepted suggestion at a time. And we can actually see this happening in the data. Stack Overflow. The site developers have used for 15 years to ask each other questions saw its traffic collapse starting in 2022. That's the exact moment AI coding assistants went mainstream. But here's what's more interesting than the volume drop. The nature of the questions changed. Searches for "how does this work" gave way to "why is this AI output wrong?" Developers stopped trying to understand mechanisms. They started trying to debug outputs. That's a different relationship with the machine. Reporting on the Stack Overflow collapse frames it as a market story, a platform losing to AI, but it's also a signal. A generation of developers is outsourcing comprehension, not just effort. And some early industry research, the numbers are still emerging, suggests a meaningful share of engineers now report real difficulty reasoning through AI-generated code during live incidents. The thing that gets you through a 2 a.m. page. Here's where this stops being a developer problem and starts being everyone's problem. Software contracts, insurance policies, regulatory audits. All of them are built on one quiet assumption: that a human being can open a code base and explain what it does. A process for checking who's responsible. That assumption is expiring. Think about what happens when a hospital's patient management system fails, or a bank's risk model misbehaves. Someone has to testify. In a boardroom, a courtroom, a regulatory review, about what the code does and why. And if the honest answer is, "we're not sure," we'd have to ask the AI. The entire liability architecture of the software industry starts to crack. Insurers wrote policies assuming a human is in the loop. Auditors built frameworks assuming a system is readable. Courts assign blame assuming someone, somewhere, understood the machine. The ripple from AI coding tools isn't really about developers. It's about governance. And almost nobody is talking about it that way yet. So here are 3 questions worth carrying with you. Not rhetorical ones, real ones. First, when a company's senior engineers can no longer audit their own code base, who carries the liability when something goes wrong? The engineering team? The AI vendor? The insurer who wrote a policy without imagining this scenario? Nobody has answered that yet. Second, If understanding your own code becomes a premium skill rather than a baseline expectation, does that create a new class divide inside software teams? A split between developers who still train comprehension and developers who fully delegated it? And what happens to the second group when the AI is wrong? Third, could we see the rise of an entirely new profession? A code auditor, an AI output legibility reviewer. The way financial auditors emerged a century ago, when accounting got complex enough that no single person could hold the whole picture. These are the questions you probably won't see in the headlines for another 2 or 3 years. But they're already forming. The productivity gains are real. The speed is real. This isn't a video telling you AI coding is bad. It isn't. But the software industry built its entire trust model on one assumption: that somewhere in the chain, a human understood the machine. AI coding tools are quietly dissolving that assumption. Not in a dramatic, headline-grabbing way, one accepted suggestion at a time. The question isn't whether developers will keep using these tools. They will. The real question is the one we started with, just a little sharper now. Who's going to notice when the last person who understood the system walks out the door? If this gave you a question you hadn't considered before, drop it in the comments, especially if you work in software, law, insurance, or anywhere accountability lives. And if you want to keep seeing the second wave before it hits the shore, subscribe. New episode every week. AI coding tools are delivering a genuine productivity gain and quietly retiring the assumption that someone, somewhere, actually understands the machine. The liability accumulating inside that gap hasn't shown up in any headline yet. It will.